The nodal axis has moved backwards from Taurus Scorpio into Aries Libra. That means that for the next 18 months, the focus will be in relationships, diversity, inclusion, and also power distribution. That is what we're going to be looking at for the next 18 months. So my name is Nadiya Blaquier. I'm very, very grateful for Nadia's invitation to be in this channel. Let's have a look at how this will manifest. So to begin with, it's important to know that the shift from Taurus Scorpio into Aries Libra happened in July 2023. And let's have a look at what the nodes are. This symbol is the North Node and this symbol is the South Node. So what are the nodes? The nodes are not planets, they're points in space. As you can see in this picture, we have the ecliptic and also we have the projected orbit of the moon. And the projected orbit of the moon is tilted, inclined by 5 degrees to the ecliptic. This means that they converge. And in this point where the moon goes from southern latitude, that is below the ecliptic, to northern latitude, that point is the North Node. And where the moon goes from northern latitude, that is above the ecliptic, to southern latitude, that point is the South Node. Now, the North Node and the South Node are 180 degrees apart from each other. They are part of an axis, okay? So it's important to know that all planets have nodes, but what we're talking about here is the nodes of the moon. And because they are the nodes of the moon, they're going to concern or be about matters that have to do with the moon. That is emotions, memory, etc. Okay. There are many, many ways of looking at the nodes, but the most commonly used nowadays is Dane Rudyard's interpretation. He says that from a strict biological and functional point of view, the North Node refers to the mouth of an animal and the South Node refers to the organs of evacuation. And what this means is that the North Node has to do with traits that we need to incorporate, and the South Node has to do with traits that we need to eliminate, or that it's something that is already familiar, so we don't need to develop in order to evolve in our lives. So the South Node shows where we are coming from, represents the path of least resistance. It describes qualities we're already familiar with. And the North Node, on the other hand, represents where we're going. It pinpoints the traits we strive to conquer in order to counterbalance the unconscious tendencies of the South Node. Okay, so the nodal axis is called, according to Rudyard, the soul's path, where the South Node has to do with inborn traits or unconscious motivations. There's no resistance. It describes our comfort zone. And the North Node, on the other hand, has to do with traits we need to acquire, and they involve a conscious effort. So whenever we are dealing with the nodal axis, Aries Libra, what we're going to be dealing with is with Aries, a cardinal sign, a fire sign, very individualistic, independent, action-oriented, a sign that loves challenges. And on the other hand, we're going to have Libra. And Libra is a sign, an air sign, that is all about relationships. It's all about harmony. How can we relate? Okay, that is why with the ingress of the nodal axis into Aries Libra, we're going to be focused on relationships on the one hand, but also on individual decisions. What do we want? What are our desires? Do we need to fight in order to obtain those desires? Now is the time to do it. I also want to pay attention. It's also important to pay attention that the ingress of the nodes into Aries Libra is different whether we use the mean node or the true node, okay? Because the mean node and the true node are a few degrees apart. And the difference has to do in the way that they're calculated. So, for instance, if we use the mean node, we can see how the ingress took place on July the 13th. But if we use the true node, it was at the end of July, on the 18th of July, that this shift from Taurus Scorpio into Aries Libra took place. Okay, so let's have a look at the mean node. This is the chart for the moment that the nodes shifted from Taurus Scorpio into Aries Libra if we use the mean node, okay? And you will see, because the nodes are always retrograde, that it began its passage through Aries at the end of the sign. And it's important to notice that we have Pluto right squaring the nodes. So Pluto's at 29 Capricorn in a nodal degree. That is always important, the fact that a planet is in the same degree as the nodes, and it is squaring the nodes. So what this means is that in the next 18 months, we're going to be dealing with things that have to do with relationships and how we relate and the kind of relationships that can be expected. And what is the place of women in society? Okay, that is also very, very important. How much power do women have? And because Pluto is part of this configuration, because you can see how this Pluto is in an exact square to the nodal axis, things related to power issues are going to be very important during this period. If instead of using the mean node, we use the true node, the ingress took place on July the 18th. And once again, we have Pluto in a square to the nodal axis, but in this case, we also have the new moon taking part of this configuration. You can see how the new moon is at the end of Cancer. So this could lead to maybe, or what this suggests is that maybe things related to women, families, the kind of families that we have, those kind of things. What does it mean to be a child? Because the new moon is in Cancer. The structure of families, I think that's the most important thing. This is to be expected. The focus is going to be on this. What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be in a relationship? What power issues come up in relationships? And how does this affect family life? So the nodes return every 18 years and 8 months. And that means that every 18 years, we're going to be looking at the same kind of issues, okay? And the half of that cycle is 9 years. So every 9 years, we can see what happened 9 years before. This is the half of the cycle. A half of a cycle is similar to a full moon. It's a time to step back and look at what was born during the beginning of the cycle and make the readjustments that we need to make in order to enter the last part of the cycle. So because the nodes take 18.5 years to return, the same area of life is going to be highlighted by the transiting nodes every 18 years, 37 years, and so on. So it's important to have a look at your chart, and if you see that the nodal axis in Aries Libra is transiting, for instance, your 4th and 10th house, what happened 18.5 years ago in that area, or what happened 9 years ago, because that was a half of the cycle, Okay, so this is really important because the same area of life is going to be highlighted. Of course, we have to look at the ingress chart for the moment in which the nodal axis went from Taurus Scorpio into Aries Libra, and we're going to see some differences with what happened 18.5 years ago. For instance, in this case, as we saw, we know that Pluto is going to be a key element of this configuration because it's right squaring in a partile square to the nodal axis. So power issues are going to be super important for the next 18.5 months. But what kind of power issues? Power issues that have to do with women, relationships, desires, how we fight for our own rights. So let's have a look at things that happened with the nodal axis transiting Libra Aries. For instance, with the nodal axis, the north node in Libra and the south node north in Aries conjunct Venus. Venus has to do with women and with the feminine. The first Barbie doll was released. Okay, so this took place in 1959 and the nodal axis was in Libra, Aries. Okay, 64 years later, the film was released. And this film is all about what it means to be a woman. What does it mean to be in a relationship? What happens to men when women gain power? So as you can see, the nodal axis once again was in Aries Libra. When the doll was released, it was in Libra Aries. Okay, and when the film was released, it was in Aries Libra. And this makes sense because this is the kind of theme that is explained, or this is the kind of message that is explained in this film. It's all about what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to have power? What does it mean to be in a relationship with a powerful woman? Okay. Another thing that happened with the nodal axis in Libra Aries is that Harvey Milk was elected mayor of San Francisco, and this was the first time that a gay man was elected for mayor in that community. So this was really very, very important. And as you can see in the chart of the day that he was elected, you can see how Pluto, this is the planet that has to do with power, was taking part in this configuration. Okay, so this is very, very important. We see how Pluto was conjunct the north node. This is Harvey Milk's natal chart, and on the outside we can see the chart of the day he was elected mayor. And as you can see, the south node that day was in very, very near his natal Uranus. So Uranus is a planet related to change, novelty, new things, okay? Unexpected new things. And in this case, it is also the ruler of his ascendant. So that is quite important. Okay, so another thing that happened with the nodal axis transiting Libra Aries is Lady Diana's divorce from Prince Charles. At that time, he was Prince Charles. So you can see how the north node was in Libra, the south node was in Aries, and in this case, it was conjunct Saturn. So this is an event that has to do with loss and has to do with sadness, okay? And it has also to do with, one could say, This is a reality check because we all remember when Princess Diana got married, it was a sort of fairy tale, okay? And when they get divorced, this is a reality check. What was their marriage really like? Why did we need, as a community, why did we expect this to be a fairy tale? Okay, and also, of course, getting divorced, Prince Charles was the future king, so getting divorced must have entailed many, many problems related to the law or the church even, okay, the Church of England. And you can see how Jupiter, the planet that is related to the law and also the church, is squaring the nodes. Later on, with the nodal axis in Aries Libra, King Charles got married. Okay, so this time, this is a great success. As you can see, the North Node is with Venus. Okay, so this was a happy event. That Venus isn't in a very good state. I mean, Queen Camilla didn't have everybody's sympathy, to tell the truth. We can see how that Venus is in exile because Venus rules Libra, so it's very, very weak when it's in Aries, and it's very near the sun. So that means that this is a Venus that is combust. But anyway, this Venus is conjunct the North Node, and this is about, the North Node in Aries is about, I fulfill my desire in a relationship, okay? The South Node is very near Jupiter. So again, this marriage must have entailed many difficulties with the Church of England or in terms of the law. Another thing that happened with the nodal axis in Aries Libra was that, okay, the first part of this event was the Civil Partnership Act in 2004, and that took place with the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. But later on, in 2005, this original schedule was amended to include other countries and states, and that took place with the nodes in Aries Libra. Okay, so this is a very, very important event. This changed the way many, many people related. This changed the way, okay, this changed the marriage institution, okay, allowing gay marriages. This was a very important event. And of course, it had to take place with the nodal axis transiting Aries Libra. Also in Spain, on the 3rd of July, 2005, the marriage between people of the same sex was allowed. And this took place with the North Node conjunct Mars. And Spain is a Catholic country, and there were many, many protests against this law, okay? Especially from the church. So here you can see in this picture, these massive protests, and with messages saying family is very important, let's not allow this kind of marriage. But it passed. So it did pass, this law passed with the nodal axis in Aries Libra. Another event, very important event that took place with the nodal axis in Aries Libra was the fact that Michelle Bachelet was the first woman to be elected president of Chile. This was the first time in history that a woman got the presidency in Chile. Okay, so this is really important. Here we can see, this is the chart at the moment she was elected. and we can see how the North Node was at 7 degrees of Aries and the South Node was in Libra. And this is about a woman taking power, because this nodal axis also has to do with women. What place do women occupy in society? Okay. And she was re-elected 9 years later, and once again, the nodal axis was this time not in Aries Libra, but in Libra Aries. Okay. Once again, she was re-elected. This time, the North Node was conjunct Mars. And this Mars is quite weak. This Mars is quite weak because it's in its exile in Libra and it's retrograde. And she did have lots of trouble during her second presidency. But the two times, the two only times that a woman was elected president in the history of Chile, the nodal axis was in Aries Libra or Libra Aries. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Okay, so Twitter was founded in 2006. The nodal axis was in Aries Libra. Twitter afforded a new way of relating through social media, but this was completely different from Facebook, completely different from Instagram. This was a new way of relating with others, a unique way of relating with others. Okay, and here we have this inception chart. I don't have the time, that's why I'm not choosing houses, but notice how Mars was in Gemini, okay? Mars was in Gemini at the time, and Mercury, the planet of communications, was conjunct Uranus, and this is typical of Twitter. Everything is immediate, okay? But it did afford a new way of relating, a new way of, yes, of being part of a community. What is very interesting is that when Twitter changed its logo to X, the nodal axis once again was in Aries Libra. Okay, so again, what we're having here is a way of relating. What I want to say is that what's central to Twitter is how do we relate to each other? And how much power do we have? Because what Twitter has given us is a very democratic way of relating with each other. Okay, in Twitter, we're all the same. It's a very democratic way of relating with each other. So it had to change, or Elon Musk decided that it needed to change, but he did change the logo once the nodal axis was in Aries Libra. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I would love your comments. There's a lot more to say about the Aries Libra axis, but I think it's going to be really interesting. We're going to see very, very interesting issues that have to do with how we relate. What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be feminine? I mean, it's every one of these issues are going to be debated during this transit of the North Node and South Node through these signs. See you next time. Thanks for the invitation, Nadiya.